You're listening to the Hawke Media podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs and executives crush the digital marketing game. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. Let's get into the show.
All right, you're listening to HawkeTalk. I'm here today with Dan Fleyshman. How are you, man?
Just happy to be here.
So, gotta ask, 2 years old, starting the poker rounds, doing some influencer marketing. Like, take me back. Where are you born? Where did it all start?
So I was born in Riga, Latvia. We left when I was 6 months old to Los Angeles. Around 4 years old, my parents were selling Levi's jeans on the swap meet every weekend.
Yeah.
At the back of a van. And so we had a booth every weekend. Well, a booth. We had a van every weekend in a parking spot. And they'd open up the back of the van. And so
Which swap meet was this? Like, is this the Pasadena one?
Valley View, like in the Orange County, Huntington Beach area.
Yep.
And so I set up my little table and I was buying and selling baseball cards with, $1, $5. And then I had $12. And
how old were you?
From 4 years old to 8 years old.
Wow.
Never missed it.
And how'd you get into that? Did you love baseball or did you what drew you to it?
I don't remember. I remember that I remember never missing a single weekend. And I remember I just started off with 4 cards. Then I had 8. Then I bought and traded my way up to 12. And then I finally had a whole little table.
Yeah.
And I had my 3 or 4 were my goal cards. Like a Hank Aaron was my goal card.
Yeah.
That was $40, which now is $50 to $100 grand. Anyways, so that's what I did from 4 years old to 8 years old. My parents ended up opening a couple of Levi's jean stores. They get divorced. I go to San Diego with my mom. My dad stays with my brother in LA. And then I started buying and selling candy at school.
Yeah.
That was my main focus, buy, sell candy. And then in high school, I finally started working 3 jobs simultaneously. So I was working at the stadium selling peanuts, Cracker Jacks.
Which stadium?
At Qualcomm.
Yeah.
And then I was working at Ruby's Diner with the sailor's cap on. And then I was working for a stockbroker under the table as his assistant. And so I saved up all this money to try to go to San Diego State.
I was gonna say, was that the drive? You were working hard to try to go to school?
Yeah, we didn't have much money at all. So it was, it was tough. And so I was saving up as much money for my mom as I could to kind of help cover whatever I could for myself and not be a drain on her.
Yeah.
And then I ended up when I was 17, me and my partner, he was the polar opposite. I had my 1982 Buick Regal. He had a Corvette and an Escalade.
Oh, nice.
His dad had a huge 9-figure company. So we trademarked this catchphrase, "Who's your daddy?" to make t-shirts. And eventually we trademarked it for barbecue sets and beverages and paper products and everything you could.
This is when you're 17.
Yes.
Wow. And how did that go? I mean, I think I've seen that brand.
Yeah. So at first it was just us selling t-shirts at the school.
Yeah.
And, we'd sold out 100 shirts at $15 each. So now we're millionaires. We had 1,500 bucks. At least I felt that way because I didn't have money like he did.
Yeah.
And then we went to Magic, the big clothing convention in Las Vegas. And we thought we were going to be big time. We got 2 booths instead of 1. So we got 20 feet instead of 10. So we were going to go take over the whole show, right?
Yeah.
We get there, and next to us on the left is a company called Fubu.
Yeah.
The whole entire walkway. On my right is a brand new launched company called Sean John. It's their first time at Magic also. They have a 2-story, looks like an actual castle all the way down. We're in between.
That sucks. I mean, I've been to Magic many times, and it's there are a lot of single boost, double boost, but if you happen to be in the wrong place where you have those 2 big ones, it's so distracting. It's hard to grab people.
So we used it to our advantage because first it was humbling when we got there. We're like, oh my God, we're the little engine that could. We're so tiny. Yeah. But then we're like, wait a minute, everybody's going to come visit them. So when anybody walks by, let's just try to hook them in.
Yeah.
So we put up an actual little boom box. We have a couple of girls from high school drove up with us to stay at the booth and be the cheerleader to help us rally people in. And we had these racks of clothing that were just t-shirts, hoodies, and hats. That was it. Yeah. We couldn't afford anything else than that. And so it worked. We ended up doing over $1 million in orders.
Wow.
At the show. However, I think it's 130 accounts total. Most accounts are $5K to $20K type accounts.
Yep.
Then we got 3 6-figure orders from Mr. Rags and Dr. J's and Miller's Outpost, which became PacSun. So here's the problem. We didn't know you needed to go have like 400 or 500 grand to make $1 million worth of clothing.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. How the heck are we going to come up with that? So we get back, and we didn't have a manufacturer yet. We knew, we knew the guy that made us the samples, but he couldn't do actual production. So we get back to San Diego. We drive to LA and spend 3 days there, just like knocking on doors near the apparel mart and the California apparel building, and keep getting told, "Hey, I go that way. Hey, yeah, talk to Johnny over there and Bobby over there."
I've been through this same thing. That's amazing.
There was no social media back then. There was
no. And it's literally that scrappy. It's like, oh yeah, there's a guy, like go down 2 blocks. It's in the other tower, the New Mart, not the Cal Mart. Like,
and tell him Vinny sent you.
Yeah, exactly.
So we end up stumbling upon a guy named Christopher Wicks, and his son was our age, Christian Wicks. So I'm still dear friends that I literally talked to 20 minutes ago before meeting with you. So Christopher Wicks, he owned licenses like Hang 10, Ocean Pacific, Body Glove, LA Gear. And at the time, he was deep into Fender guitars. He had their license.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
And he started a clothing brand called English Laundry, which he later sold. He sold it for over 100 million later on. And so he became like our dad type figure. His son was our identical age, and he believed in us and how scrappy we were. We already had a bunch of orders, so he knew that people cared, right? People would buy from us. And so he took us from 1 million to that year getting us $9.5 million in licensing deals and sales.
And that's like the first year, right?
Yeah. So this became year 2 when he actually got us all the real numbers.
Wow. That's awesome.
And then the deal he got us with Starter Apparel, and those licensees was just for the UK was $9 million as a minimum guarantee for 3 years. So he got us some big boy deals to like get us pumped up.
Yeah.
And also, more importantly, helped us with the financing of manufacturing, because that's the hardest part. Floating the inventory. And then he got us set up in meetings all across. So there were obviously lots of roller coasters in between there. That were wild, just being 18, 19, 20, 21 years old in the clothing business. People take a lot of advantage of you. So definitely.
Any key story that stands out? It's about the journey.
I think the main story was the Empire State Building in New York.
Yep.
And these guys had this big showroom, and they just knew everyone, everything. And there's this guy who he was the legend of the game. And we had a booth at a different convention called ASR, the Action Sports Retail Show.
Uh-huh.
The way we got that booth was that during Magic, I saw the guy's badge and it said Action Sports Retail Show. So I literally stopped him. Remember, this is some random 50-year-old dude. I'm 18, 19. And I was like, hey, what's that show? Oh yeah, it's a surfwear show and sports and skate in San Diego next week. I was like, oh great, we want a booth. He's like, it doesn't work like that. Like everybody bought their booths months ago. I was like, no, we need a booth. We live in San Diego. It's perfect. Come on, we're gonna get a booth. He was like, I really don't have a booth. I said, you can just put us next to someone. It's fine. We don't need much space. Look at how big our booth is. Let me show you. He's like, no, I'll give you my number. We'll figure it out for the next show. I said, no, this show. Next week, we're coming. He gives us a booth attached to someone else's booth at the very, very, very front where you register.
Oh, wow.
So the first 4 hours, you have all 40,000 people next to you. So for 4 hours, we are the catch, right? We're the best thing in town. Yep. We're talking to everyone. We're brand new 18-year-old kids. Like, hey, look at us. We just got $1 million in orders. Like, we had the good momentum. But it's a 4-day show. After those 4 hours, nobody really can fly, right? Because you don't need to register.
Yeah.
And so we're attached to Calvin Klein, and their booth is massive. And the president of Calvin Klein becomes our dear friend because we're bored out of our minds. Yeah. He's entertained by these kids that are just like boomboxing and inviting people over. And so we become fast friends with this guy. He starts teaching us about the game. And he's like, hey, look, if you ever come to New York, look us up. And he gave me his card. So the show ends on Sunday. Yeah. Monday morning, we literally, me and my partner, flew to New York with no meeting, no phone call.
Yeah.
Just went.
Yeah.
So we show up at his building, at the Empire State Building. He had FUBU, the ladies' license. He had the FUBU ladies. He had Sean John, the underwear license. He had Diddy's underwear license. When we get there, Mary J. Blige is literally there in the room as we walk in, and we walk up to the secretary like, hey, we have a meeting with Carlos Vasquez.
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't. So yeah, we do. We have a meeting today. Like we just.
Yeah.
She said, that's not possible. He just landed, so there was no meetings for today. I was like, no, look, I'm positive we have a meeting with him. And the second we say it, we see him and he sees us and locks eyes. Is like, who's your daddy? So how could we be there, right? We were just in. So anyways, he said, you got to meet the CEO guy. He's like the biggest in the game. He was a CEO of Perry Ellis and CEO of Donna Karen before. You got to talk to him. And so he's like, you're going to get like 15 minutes at the best. We ended up sitting in a meeting with this guy for 4.5 hours. Wow. I learned more in that meeting than I have to date about apparel.
Wow.
He taught us about every single thing that a company can do with chargebacks, about shipping your clothes back if you have the label the wrong way, if you have it on the hanger to the left instead of hanger to the right, they'll charge you back. He was teaching about store within a store, real estate, like everything you can imagine. I learned in that moment 20 years ago.
Well, and it's amazing. So I've got to imagine a lot of people wouldn't look to learn that. Like, where did that come from? Like, because I'm sure you learned that much because you spent 4 hours listening and understanding. Like, where do you think that came from? Because obviously you've got the hustle from a young age, but what about that inquisitive side?
I think it's still me. I think still now.
Yeah.
I go to so many events and I speak at events literally to go learn and listen.
Yep.
Because listen, you learn one main tip, it could change the whole trajectory of your life.
Yep.
What if Erik teaches me one main thing about Facebook that adds me an extra $100? Well, $100 isn't $100. It compounds because now the $100 becomes 500, then 1,000, then $5,000, then 10 grand, then 20 grand every month. And you know what I'm saying? Like it changes the whole trajectory of your business by learning something about $100.
Yep.
And so I'm not sure where it exactly came from, but I was during high school, during college era, and now I always want to learn that thing because I know how much things compound if I learn that one thing.
Makes sense.
So that meeting ends up going well. We end up doing clothing for years. When I'm 23 is when we take it public on the stock market.
Yeah. So tell me about that, because you were the youngest person to take a company, or youngest CEO to take a company public at the time, right?
So it was fascinating because, again, social media didn't exist. So we were doing traditional news nonstop, CNN, ABC, Fox News nonstop. No publicists. Everyone just got a hold of us because this was such a unique. We were so young. We were babies.
Yeah.
And it was going well. So there was an interesting thing, and it's like a funny catchphrase. Yeah. It was very visual. So the stories were going well for us, and it helped us with retail a lot. And so I was really pushing to get into print magazines. I was sponsoring from Maxim magazine, so whatever magazine I could get into, I was always sponsoring them to get full page ads, which is silly looking back at it, but I had to do it because I knew what it would do for the rest of the business.
Right.
So we ended up launching it. We only did it to raise capital for the energy drink because beverages are very expensive. Like clothing's expensive to float the inventory, but on beverages it's even harder because they reorder every 1 to 4 weeks. But it takes you 2 to 3 months of production time.
Got it.
You gotta like really forecast, which we didn't even know how to spell forecast. We had to really forecast how much inventory we needed, and you need a lot of capital. And it's very heavy for shipping. It's very heavy for storage. It takes up a lot of space. There are drinks. So that first year was difficult. We raised 3.75 million opening day was like the capital we wanted to raise. We raised in like 2 minutes. Yeah. And the VCs and investment bankers were super happy with us. We just start handing out, boom, let's start 7-Up, Sprite, ball manufacturing. Who's your can manufacturer? Who's going to do this? And just here, take all the money. We literally, the same amount of money we got that day, we wired out the same day.
Wow.
To just get us more drinks, get us more cans, get us more packaging, get us more everything. Yeah. And so for the next 4 years, I sincerely don't remember. From 23 to 27, that block, I don't remember a dinner, a date, a birthday, anything. Those 4 years, I just drove and flew to every retail store, every distributor around the country, nonstop. We ended up getting 43 distributors. Half of them were Budweiser, and the rest were Coors, Miller, and Pepsi. I just went to their warehouses, drove with their drivers, and then Groundhog Day did it again. Groundhog Day did it again. Over and over and over. And again, remember, this is like MySpace days. That was it. Like what else did I do? And so I was doing traditional marketing. We were sponsoring NASCAR, but we couldn't afford NASCAR. And so what I did was I had Circle K, the chain store, buy a couple $1 million worth of beverage. I was going to pay $1.5 million a year for the NASCAR, but they had to do $3 million in orders, which would make me break even. Yeah. I did that. Then I also went to Smith's grocery store chain and did the same deal with them for 1.6 million. They ended up reordering more and more and more. And so I tried to do those type of weird traditional / upside down deals to make it so I didn't have to actually pay for it.
Yeah.
The Utah State Fair, it was called the Coca-Cola State Fair for 16 years. All of a sudden, a city that's not supposed to have caffeine, or state that's not supposed to have caffeine, Coca-Cola obviously was their biggest endorser. I said, hey, Smith's grocery store, let us do a whole end cap display at every one of your stores. We will invite people and spend money on radio to promote to go to your stores. If they buy our drinks, we'll give them $5 off each ticket, up to 4 tickets. So family of 4. The case of drinks is only $26. So they're going to save $20. So most families will do it just because they know they're going to go to the fair anyways. So our sales were skewed, right? Our sales were through the roof, kind of, right? Because we're basically handing out free money. And so we would go in and do these interesting type of sponsorship deals to try to, because we just didn't have the money to do them.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting to 55,000 retail stores over the next few years. And learning a lot of what we call the energy drink wars. Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar would pay to get us out.
Oh, they would. Yeah, I was going to say they seem. I don't know as much about Red Bull's ethics, but Rockstar and Monster seem like they would definitely, and I'm sure Red Bull did the same thing. Like they would actually be aggressive about things.
Yes. So anytime we poked the bear clawed us.
Yeah.
We would get into the biggest nightclub in San Diego. We're like, oh my God, we're in 30,000 square foot club. This is amazing. We got the DJ booth, has our branding on it. Every Friday night is our energy drink night. It was amazing. And then we'd get the call like, hey, your guys' stuff isn't on the DJ booth anymore. I was like, why? Well, it says Red Bull now. Why would it say Red Bull? And I go talk to the owner. They're like, hey, Red Bull gave us $250,000 for the year. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I get it. And then we go down the street and Red Bull already did all of the venues in like a 2-day period. They went out and handed out checks and covered downtown San Diego. As the example, that happened in lots of cities.
Yeah.
And so we called it the takeover. It was like energy drink wars versus the energy drink takeover.
Yeah.
I mean, Costco ended up bringing on our drinks. This was a crazy story. They brought our drinks on, and remember, Costco usually carries the top 3 products of a category.
Yeah.
So they had Red Bull, Monster, and Rockstar. Good luck getting in.
Yeah.
Sometimes Coca-Cola would bring in Full Throttle. That was about it. You couldn't really get in. So Costco says, well, look, we're going to test you for the California market. We'll drop Rockstar for you, but you have to do X amount of sales. I was like, God bless you. By the way, I got into Costco by simply sending a care package every Friday to the security guards and secretaries, not to executives.
Yep.
And then they just kept seeing them drink it up front.
Yeah. That's so smart. Yeah. I mean, John Rowan, Giftology? Yeah. That's his whole thing is, go for the spouse, the secretary, the people that don't get taken care of as much.
Because they're in their ear.
Yep.
So Costco says, great. We end up doing quite a large order for us, especially opening order was, I think it was 1.8 million, 1.9 million.
Nice.
An opening order. This is only, remember, for a few dozen stores. This is just California. Yeah. But when you think about Costco, they order by the truckload per store.
Yeah.
So literally a semi-truck is what they prepare for a store because they can't sell a little bit. They have to sell a lot to make sense. So I get to the store on a Friday. They had a delivery on Thursday. I get to the store on a Friday, and I go to the beverage section, and there's Red Bull, Monster, and a bunch of plastic. And it says our name, but our drinks aren't there. Yeah. So I go find them, like, hey, can you guys bring the drinks out? They're like, I don't know. It's the strangest thing. We sold out all of those drinks.
Oh, wow.
Sure you did. Yeah, right. They're like, no, we did. So I don't even like acknowledge that they exist anymore. And I walk to someone else because this guy is insane. It's not possible. Yeah. I go find someone else. I'm like, hey, can you help me? I'll go in the back and do it for you guys. I'll push the pallet out. Where are the pallets at? They said it was the weirdest thing. Everything got bought. So I think it's just complete BS, right? There's no way. It's literally not possible. This was like a month's worth of product. So I leave and I go to another Costco because they're not helping me. And when I get there, exact same scenario. Okay, this one's like 25 minutes away. This time I go and find a manager. And I was like, hey, I was at another store. This is impossible. How could this have happened? They're like, well, we think there's a problem. So what's the problem? Well, we listed you at $19.99 and you were supposed to be at $28.99. And so the liquor store owners, they have like the Chaldeans have an association with like 1,100 members they own all these liquor stores all up and down California. They put out a newsletter, like a some kind of message or email to each other that the drinks were less than what you could buy from Budweiser for. So our distributor in the area was wholesaling to them at 24. They would then sell it for 32, and that, blah, blah, blah. And if they wanted to, they could sell it $2 a can, which would be $48. So everybody was happy in that market. But for them, even to save $4 is a big deal for them.
Yeah.
The way their whole thing, and think about it, they're buying candy bars to make 4 cents on.
Yeah.
So they save $4. Some of them got slick, bought all of it.
Yeah.
Just to sell to each other.
Oh, that's funny.
And so all of a sudden, these guys became their own distributors, and they would like wholesale tobacco and candy, etc. They went and bought everything and took it, because I was selling it to Budweiser at $19.50, and they're paying $20 at Costco.
Yeah.
And so they just bought everything, took it to their own warehouses, and then were schlepping it around the city to sell to each other.
Well, I guess it worked out. Costco at least was happy that they ran through the product, right?
Well, I had to be honest with them because they want to do a national store buy. Because remember, the guys at the corporate headquarters, they don't know. They just see crazy numbers. They don't know the story. I said, guys, this was not real. I can't perform like that. I'm going to sell, 10 cases a day there. I'm not going to sell 100. It's not real life.
Yeah.
And so they actually ended up dropping us. They said we wouldn't be able to afford to handle their next order. And so Rockstar got back in there. And I actually found out later that they paid, I think it was almost $3 million to the Costco's. And in their email, someone told me about it. They were actually told to place our drinks by the dumpster outside and Rockstar will pick it up. No, they were doing that. I actually had a heart-to-heart after I found out about this. They were doing that because they wanted to hurt our brand.
Yeah.
They wanted them to leave it outside. They specifically asked them to leave it outside on Tuesday, because I guess the pickups were on Monday, so that our drinks would be outside by the trash can for the week. That's all the wars that we were. Anyways, so
that's insane. Yeah, I knew it was bad. I didn't know it got that bad. So what was next? What kept happening?
So that went on. Did that for 4 years. When I was 27, on the 10-year anniversary, I started when I was 17.
Yeah.
I resigned so I could put another feather in my cap, and I've been doing the same brand for a decade.
Yeah.
And I want to start a poker site, an online poker site.
So real quick, you resigned. Did that company keep running? Did you exit? Did you?
Yeah. So I was the largest shareholder when I resigned.
Yeah.
The company when I left, it went from 55,000 stores to 18,000 stores in 1 quarter.
Wow.
18,000 to 4,500 in 1 year. And so I was the driving force on the sales side.
Yeah.
And the CEO that got brought in, he was like in the 65, 70 years old range, and he was in the gaming space, like in the casino space. So it wasn't a fit for him.
Yeah.
But I had moved on. My life was moving forward.
Yeah.
And I wanted to start a poker site. Social media started to pop up, YouTubes and Twitters and things started to pop up.
And what year is this?
This is now 2008, 2009.
Okay.
And so Facebook's a thing now. Everything, like, things are people actually using it. We don't have smartphones yet, but we're getting there. We're about a year. So I moved to a place called Malta. Never heard of Malta before. I put on a backpack and I just went to Malta.
Nice.
And I just knew I had to be there because you only had 2 options of where you're going to get your gaming license. And I don't want to be in Gibraltar and Seychelles type places because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Malta at least had restaurants and whatever. It was at least a little town. Even though it was tiny, it was at least there was something. So I move there for 2 years by myself and build a poker site. Within 10 weeks, we are a functional live site. And within 10
months, you got a good developer because that's fast.
Yeah. Well, we use the skin, like a white label, on some of the hard parts.
Got it.
So we had a back end system on the actual casino platform, the poker platform. That was a white label on a small network that was based in Malta. And then it was called Everleaf Gaming. We then got too big. We became more than 50% of their entire platform. And so we moved to a different platform called Cake. So the Cake network was based in Vancouver. They could handle us, right? They were much bigger. Yeah. And so we ended up this is when I signed Dan Bilzerian, DJ Steve Aoki, a bunch of Playboy Playmates, all these poker pros to be like the cool poker site. It wasn't like cool.
What was the name of it?
It was called Victory Poker.
Nice.
And so the videos are still up on YouTube. We made a bunch of crazy fun videos for YouTube. And we had like a play on words when we moved to the Cake network. A lot of our content had cake. The models were fighting with cake. We'd have cake at every final table. Like, we started using the Cake network, which was our back end, as kind of like our fun marketing. Is
that where Steve Aoki got the cake throwing thing from?
I don't think so. I can't take credit.
Okay. I know you guys are friends. I wasn't sure.
We were playing poker back in 2007 and 8 before the site even started. He liked playing poker.
Got
so
it.
He would have like different friends over back then
Yeah.
for small poker games, but like cool, like Benji Madden and Mini Me and like fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
They were just liking to play with a couple $100, just like hang out. And so now social media starts to become a thing. Aoki, Bilzerian, the Playmates, the Poker Pros, I'm getting them all on television, and they're starting to build up some social media. But I've realized that a similar concept where I was leveraging other people's marketing, like in NASCAR, the poker sites, my biggest competitors, Full Tilt and Pokerstars, they had humongous TV shows, $9 million productions, $7 million productions running on all these different channels. So I'm the little engine that could, same concept. Self-financed it, and some of the poker pros put in some money on top of that. That was it. We didn't do any outside capital raise. And what we had in funding was what they'd make in a day, right? And that's what I'm up against. So they have these big TV shows. Well, I've got the cool kids. I've got these poker pros, playmates, and musicians. I'm going to get them onto their TV shows playing poker, which is basically like a commercial, because they play for 8 hours. That becomes 8 1-hour segments that go on for the that season. And so all of a sudden you see Dan Bilzerian with a Victory Poker shirt on, and you see the next poker pro with a hat on, and you see little Sarah Underwood playing on Fox Sports with a big Victory Poker patch on, and she's this big. All you can do is stare at that person for an hour, and then an hour, and an hour. And you don't look anywhere else, and your job is literally to as a viewer, your job is to analyze them.
Yeah.
You're looking how they twitch, you're looking how they shake their head, you're looking at their fingers and their shirt and their eyes and their mouth. Like, you're analyzing them for an hour straight. And so our patch is the only thing you can see. Literally, there's no other words allowed. They're not allowed to wear logos. They're not allowed to wear Nike. You can't wear anything else. And so I started doing that at scale. I was just like, get on every TV show possible. I was playing on as many shows as I could. Yeah. Sarah was playing on TV shows. Aoki, Bilzerian, Poker Pros, everybody, Antonio's fun. All these different characters that were on TV shows playing. We were going to UK, Australia, anywhere there was a TV show, we were there.
That's awesome.
It was free.
Yep.
Or they would even pay for a lot of these guys travel because they were good talent for the shows. And so our competitors couldn't do much about it. They needed us for the shows because I had all the young blood.
Right.
All the interesting characters. Their guys are like 54 years old and sit like this for an hour.
Yeah.
They don't say a word. That's not good TV, right?
Yep.
I got these guys splashing chips and making, funny bets and telling stories and drinking. You got guys that are boring and like. So that helped us a lot. We became a really big brand in the poker space. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, April 15th, there was something called Black Friday. Online poker is shut down in America. If you go to Full Tilt Poker or Pokerstars website, it literally says seized by the FBI.
Wow. I
was like, what just happened? It's 10:10 in the morning. I get a call from Bilzerian. He's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at the Bellagio. Why aren't you in Malta? What do you like? What? He's like going nuts. He's like, you haven't heard? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, go turn on the TV. So I walk inside the restaurant, inside the Bellagio, and they turn on TV, and like every channel was bloody murder. Like it was over. Yeah. FBI, billions of dollars seized. I'm like, I look at my site, everything's fine. I look at my bank account, it's fine. Everything's fine. And at 12 o'clock, I have a meeting set with this guy. He used to own, or he created the licenses for Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Yep. He invented the slot machine loyalty card. Like old people sit there and that's like put it in.
Yeah.
He sold that for like $440 million. He owned Riverboat Casinos, the licenses to Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Like he is the gaming guy, right?
Yeah.
I've been waiting for this meeting for 4 months. That's why I flew back in just to meet the guy at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So his name was Edward Fishman. I think he's still alive. He's in his 80s now. So I go to the Hard Rock to go meet this guy. And mind you, 10 a.m. I find out my life's over. My site's not down, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I get there. I walk into this room at the Hard Rock. And the second I walk in, he's like, man, you look like somebody died. We haven't said hello to each other.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, it might be worse than that. Turn on the TV. So he puts on the TV. There it is. Bloody murder. The sky is falling. Money seized in 16 countries, even the like non-extradition countries. They took the money everywhere. What's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. So he immediately calls Steve Wynn. I'm just a fly on the wall, like, oh, cool. Steve is screaming bloody murder. He's like so mad at his attorneys because just a few weeks prior, he announced his major partnership with Full Tilt, with the poker site.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
He was like, they waited like a year or two to announce the deal. Literally 2 weeks after they announced the deal, he's like, how could they not know?
Yeah.
So I'm meeting with Ed, and he was like, you know why I brought you here? So yeah, I thought we were gonna tell you all about my business, etc. I wasn't pitching him, like I just knew I was meeting the legend in the game.
Yeah.
He was like, you're gonna be teaching poker and blackjack for 4 hours downstairs to the California Sheriff's Department. Come on. He said, yeah, there's 11 of the sheriffs downstairs. Come on, let's go. So I'm with Steve Sear, this casino host, and we go downstairs, and I'm like, turn white. I'm like, oh my God. You guys gonna arrest me on the spot? Am I a criminal? Did I do something wrong? Like, what's happening right now? Because everyone's just bombarding. So I go down there. I tell them the story in the first minute, like, because Edward messes with me. He's like, come on, tell them you're not a criminal. So I explain to these guys, and one guy keeps messing with me. He keeps like clanking his handcuffs throughout the day. So I'm teaching them blackjack. I'm teaching them poker. People keep trying to call me nonstop, so I have to keep walking away to take quick calls. I'm like, listen. So I never got nothing. I never got a letter. Nothing happened to us because we didn't do what they were doing. What they were doing was called miscoding merchant transactions. So let's say Eric's gonna deposit $500 on Pokerstars. His credit card, his merchant account would say PS3. So try to make it sound like a PlayStation.
Yeah.
I would go deposit the same $500 and it would say mattresses.biz or flowers.edu. It would say something that was like non-related to gaming. And so mine, I was Wells Fargo's my one bank account, and it said Victory Poker on your statement. That was it. I only had two things because I didn't know.
So you weren't committing fraud.
Yeah, and I just didn't even know I didn't even know why they were doing what they were doing. I was, didn't even make sense to me. I'm like, why would you matter? Why would it matter?
Yeah.
So I ended up manually paying back 41,000 people over the next 4 days.
Okay.
I'm closing the site down. I'm telling everyone on social media. I'm doing a bunch of radio interviews. I'm like, hey, if you have money with us, withdraw. We just want to pay everyone back. We'll reassess once whatever happens to my competitors. I don't feel comfortable if the government comes and takes our bank accounts. It's your money. Take your money back. Everybody take your money back.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so, because I just didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, but that's still it was a good thing to do because it wasn't your problem either if they took the money, but that's the right thing to do. That's awesome.
I wanted to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And so over the next 4 days, I manually pay everyone back. I become the good guy in the space, and it helped me a lot. So the toughest financial decision ended up becoming the best from a personal scenario.
Yeah.
Because I could sleep at night, and my competitors ended up taking a half a decade before they paid everyone back, and they never actually paid everyone back because the government only gave them portions.
Yeah.
And they Pokerstars acquired Full Tilt, whatever. It was a whole mess. Took half a decade, never fully got resolved. A lot of people lost hundreds of millions of dollars, which was very sad.
Yeah.
So by paying everyone back, I started getting these consulting gigs with land-based casinos. I was the only CEO of a poker site in America that wasn't dead or in jail. I was the only one that was clean cut. And so I started doing these consulting gigs. And I also realized in that moment, I never want to have all my eggs in one basket ever again.
Yeah.
That's all in twice now, right?
Yeah.
My first brand for 10 years. Then this brand, all of a sudden, boom, it's over. What do I do?
Yep.
So that's when I decided I was going to become an angel investor into different companies. And I was going to start my social media agency and really try to diversify and rebuild my
what
life.
Year was that?
This is now 2011.
Okay. So still very early. Social media agencies in 2011 were not prominent.
We did not really become an agency until like 2012, 13.
I'd say 2011, it wasn't 2010 or 11 when Facebook started advertising.
Yeah, we never did Facebook ads anyway.
Yeah.
Always just, hey, Khloe Kardashian, I'll pay you 10 grand to tweet this.
Yep. Got it.
And so our first things were closer to like 2012, 2013 range. After I did a consulting gigs for the first year or two before I started agency. And so 2000, I think it was 13, 14 is when it became an actual agency. Like that's when, before it was called Elevator Studios, it had a different name to it, called One Penny. And the reason it was called One Penny ad agency was we could get you eyeballs with a 1 penny CPM, basically. That's what we joke about. And so all of our eyeballs were, it's how can we get you as many eyeballs as we can at the 1 penny CPM rate.
Yeah.
And so people were just giving us budgets, and all of a sudden the budgets went from like 10K, 25K to like 50K and 100K, 100K and 250K, 100K, 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 100K every week. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, we got a little business here. And it was the wild, wild west. Nobody knew what anybody was worth. They still don't really know, right? We're still totally. And so back then, like, hey, Kim Kardashian, will you post this for $25,000? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be in a picture in it, because I don't even know if Twitter had pictures back then.
Yeah.
So it was like, of course. And so getting people to tweet, getting people to post on YouTube videos, getting people, and then as Instagram popped up, obviously that was our biggest focus. Instagram's still our biggest focus to date. So we were just getting people and brands to pay. And then at the same time, we were making our own themed accounts and meme accounts. And so we ended up having, I think, 36 million followers worth of accounts of like theme pages, just owning like in the makeup space or the cannabis space or the fashion space, etc.
Yep.
And so we started making these themed accounts, and at the same time, paying everyone to post. And we were just like the middleman, the broker, the agency for all these brands. So 2015, 16, 17 becomes a real thing, right? We become Elevator Studio. We're becoming like doing all the Kardashians, not all of their stuff, but a lot of tens of millions of dollars with them.
Yep.
We're doing the initial rounds of posts for Fashion Nova and Fit Tea as they're emerging. We're the ones driving around with Fit Tea products and paying.
And how did you get these connections, like for Fashion Nova, Fit Tea? Was it just you were doing it so long you just kind of built network, or were you hustling to be like, we're going to be the guys for that brand?
So we never had like an outbound sales team, but we had a lot of referrals. And I was throwing elevator nights, my free events, every quarter. And so there was nobody else throwing events like that. And there was nobody else like actively in the game, talking, going, running around. I'm trying to be everywhere, right? I'm trying to be omnipresent. So I'm with Ty Lopez and his world over here, and he was taking off in social media. But then I'm with Amber Rose and Scott Disick and Tyga and like those characters, and Rob Kardashian over here on this side. And so they would post with me, and then the brands would see it, and that became the obvious thing. And I started doing some of the posts I was doing and asking that I should have done it way more often. I was asking some of the influencers to post about me as an agency owner.
Yep.
So I remember going to Amber Rose for Fashion Nova and bringing her a whole bunch of, I brought her a check, but also brought her in cash. We made a rose for her out of cash, out of $100 bills. And then we made like a vase, and the vase was full of cash. There was a bonus on top. So her actual payment was her normal payment. And we made this thing as like a visual gift for her. So she made this post of her holding this vase with a rows of $100 bills with us, tagging us.
Nice.
And so now what happens? Well, Amber had a big following from hip hop side of the world, fashion side of the world. Girls are obviously following her and looking up to her. People hated her. Lots of people hated her. So all the different components happen. And the brand owners, a lot of them saw it because she was one of the first people to get big. And so Black China, she would come over to the office all the time. Same concept. Her and I would make a video on a hoverboard together. Yeah. In that video, when she's tagging me, same concept. Hip hop artists follow her. Mainstream follows her. Lots of people hate her. All the media and paparazzi follow her. Right. Yeah. So I should have been even more intentional about it. I didn't do it enough. But the times that I did do it, it helped get a lot of inbound clients. Yeah. So when Fashion Nova was first getting going, he just realized the repetitiveness and like just keep hammering it. We mostly helped on the celebrity side. He was doing it himself. I don't want to take any credit. He did himself on the influencer side. They did a massive scale. His name again,
is it Richard?
Yeah, Richard. Yeah. He did it at a massive scale, all in-house. It was amazing to watch him like just over and over.
And they've crushed it.
And then Fit Tea, they just gave us multi-million-dollar budgets. Go, just make us famous. Get us with as many different characters as you can. Yep. So we made some really interesting content where Kim Kardashian's posting. It didn't even matter how much he did in sales that day, because the amount of every other girl and every other influencer and every media outlet wanting to be attached to the brand.
Yeah.
It really mattered.
Yeah.
And so that was where really we had a big turning point, because all these other brands saw what we were doing on the big scale.
Yeah.
And then that led us to Pretty Little Thing and Boohoo and Nasty Gal and movies and sodas and beers, whatever.
When I love what you just said there, because I think it's something we deal with on the marketing side too all the time, is everybody looks at some things in a vacuum. Like, how much sales did we do that day when Kim Kardashian posts? It's like, you got to look a little more nuanced than that when it comes to growing your business. And it's the brilliance comes in where you can understand all the other benefits so that you can decide, is it truly justifiable or not? Because maybe they didn't get hit up by a bunch of people, and maybe Kim didn't work out for them, because I'm sure plenty of those campaigns haven't. Right. But they were able to look at it, and if they had looked at just sales, they may have never pursued it anymore. But because they understood the power of also getting all the people that looked up to her to want to partner with them too, that's huge.
Yep. So we did it with Postmates, Lyft, and DraftKings. And in all three of those campaigns, it was very similar. We had around 80 to 90 influencers, some of them being the celebrities, some of them being fitness and makeup and beauty and fashion.
Yep.
And some of them are hit or miss. Some of them are not going to convert that day. But then, did this happen because of it? Did this situation happen because of that? Did their best friend start posting and they started crushing it?
Yep.
So I've turned down a lot of clients as an agency, just telling them, I'm not going to guarantee you an ROI.
Yeah.
I can lead all the horses to water. I cannot make them drink.
Yep.
Your website doesn't convert. If your price points are wrong. If you're this is that. But if you have a good website that's already selling really well of your hats, let's say you're wearing camouflage hats and you do well converting there, you are much more inclined to do well if I send you 1 million people to your website.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I can't guarantee they're going to buy a single thing. Anybody that says they can guarantee it's lying. I can get the people there and get the horses to the water. It's up to them to drink.
Yeah, I have an article I wrote when I first started Hawke. I think an entrepreneur that was about, like, if someone promises you an ROI, run.
Right.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, if they could, like, I'm always like, if they're promising you that, ask them if they want to buy your company. If they can predict the growth, fucking, they should take over. They're going to be a billionaire.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So, and you kept angel investing, right? That's become a big part of it too.
Yes.
And what have been some of your bigger wins there?
So angel investing, I invested into a travel site that got acquired. It was like reverse travel. So instead of you saying, I want to go to Hawaii and here's my budget, you say, I've got $2,000. Where can I go in the world?
Yeah, that's cool. That's fun.
That site did really well. It was called where2.com. Back then it was called where2.com. Then we got a deal with Walmart to do the travel bookings for all of Walmart. They book 2 million flights and hotels a year for their staff.
Walmart's just on another scale, isn't it?
It's just hard to even grasp.
Yeah.
And so what our proposition to them was, instead of called Where2, we changed the name for them to Where4.com. And what happened was, hey, Walmart, if your staff member books at a hotel that's 14 miles away, the taxi ride is an extra $8. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? But $8 each way might be $32 if they go back.
Twice. Yeah.
What's $32 times 500,000 trips in a year?
Yeah.
A lot. $15 million. $16 million. Right? What if they book the hotel that's 184 instead of 164? $20 doesn't sound like a lot. What's $20 times 500,000 trips?
Yeah.
$10 million.
Yeah.
So Walmart invested into our company on top of the using us.
Nice.
And that was the big turning point. We went away from consumer. I invested into, what are some other funds? One went public, which did well. That was like a music audio company. And it went public, and I sold a bunch of my stock right before the wedding because it was like very expensive. And
weddings are crazy, aren't they? Shit, especially that last like month where you're just stops like trying to nickel and dime. You're just like, screw it, sure. And then you're like, what did I just do?
You don't realize how much, if you have 100 guests, 100 times anything is a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's only $30 for this times 100 or 300, 500.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there was a company that went public that did well. And then there's some companies that are just doing 20 or 30 million bucks a year, but have never made a penny. So a lot of people don't realize with angel investing, I was the first check into like trendybutler.com and dollarbeardclub.com, like some of these sites that have now done tens and tens of millions of dollars revenue.
Yeah.
I've never got a penny.
Yeah. They're not profitable, maybe they're profitable if they haven't distributed and they haven't sold yet.
Yep. And so those are some of my early ones that I believe will have good exits at some point. I've had big successes, but I've never made a penny.
Yep.
My most recent one that I'm the most vocal about is called Everbowl.
Yep.
So Everbowl is an acai bowl chain. I came in when they had 17 locations a couple years ago. But outside of my investment into the parent co, I was like, look, I really like this business. I love the founder. If the founder was selling lamps, I would have put the same amount of money in.
Yeah.
I just believed in him. And so I brought in a friend out of Utah named Aaron Wagner, who already had like 100 locations of other types of restaurants.
Uh-huh.
And we became partners to like really build this thing up.
Cool.
So he became like the master franchisee for the business. We ended up buying 23 of the locations. Me, Aaron, and a friend named Cole Hatter. We bought up a bunch of locations. And then he's been out there franchising and opening up locations in Utah, Las Vegas, etc. So now the brand has 45 locations, and we're opening one every 10 days.
Oh, wow.
We have 134 locations have already paid deposits for their franchises. So I tried to help the business from different angles. One, get them away from becoming an owner and really focus on becoming a franchisor.
Yeah.
Totally different business. Now you're in the service business, right? Yeah. So we shifted that. I brought in QVC when the pandemic started back March, April last year. He had to furlough, 300 or 400 employees, and he's like, "But I got 90,000 acai packs. I want to do something with it." Yeah. So our friend Todd Abrams from Icon Meals, he's like, "Hey, why don't you talk to QVC? Maybe they could help you sell it. They do great for us." So that worked out amazing because now he does $500K to $1 million in a month on QVC, selling frozen packs. Yeah. All because of the situation.
Yeah. And that's something I saw with the pandemic that has been really resonated is the people that tried to figure it out seem to do really well. I don't care about your industry. And I say that because I have a buddy that owns a chain of gyms across Canada that ended up finding an 8-figure business in virtual training to try to keep his trainers paid while it's in Canada, they're still closed. But he's got now an 8-figure virtual training business that he's now raised money around, and he's building up this incredible platform. Like that's one example. I've seen friends with restaurants and all these things that have figured it out and were able, because it's also so many people froze up and pulled out. Spending didn't decline because of all the stimulus and everything. Right. So people still spent tons of money. If you just put yourself in front of it, you made money throughout the past year.
Yep. So his pivot helped a lot with the business. I then raised about $5 million amongst a bunch of our friends from the mastermind groups. Yep. We put in $5 million. Then Drew Brees put in a couple $1 million on top of that, which was fun.
That's fun, yeah.
So now the business is well capitalized, profitable, has been doing distributions every quarter. So now, unlike most of my investments, it actually pays distributions.
Nice.
I try to invest from all angles.
Yeah.
A business like that, I don't even call it double down. Out of the companies I invest in, one, my strict thing is I only invest in companies that I can help.
Yeah, smart.
If Erik's doing heart surgeries, God bless you for doing that. I can't help you. Yeah. But if Erik's making hoodies with hearts on them, I can help him sell a lot of heart hoodies, right? Yeah. And so I try to focus on things that I can help with. And that's why a lot of the companies have either survived or thrived. I've never had any of these companies close down because I'll financially support them, but I'll also help them with this relationship, that connection, et cetera. And now I'm trying to take it in overdrive. Now I started the rolling fund. Now I have my syndicate group. Now I'm like, okay, now that I got the model down, we have tons of inbound options of what's invested in. I'll co-invest. So if Erik says, hey, I should invest in this because Erik does much investing, I'll co-invest along friends that have already vetted deals. But my goal is, how do I get my investor syndicate from 600 people to 5,000 people? Then I can try to fund a deal in like an hour. Yeah. I just sent out a text message and email. Are you guys in or out?
It's been fun. I mean, we raised our fund, and then what we've done is, and we told our LPs we're doing this. We have our fund thesis that we do checks out of the fund, and then when we have things that are outside that thesis, we still float it by the LP list, which similarly, we only have, I think, 48. So it's not, as you said, an hour, but a couple days we can fund a good SPV, and it's great. So when we find good deals now, we have a little bit of juice behind us. Yep, it's fun.
So that's what I want to take I want to do that at scale. I think it'd be interesting. I think it'd be interesting if you have 48 guys that want to jump into deals. It doesn't take big checks. They throw in 25K, 50K checks, times that by 20 guys, boom, you got $1 million. Yeah. And so I really want to do that at scale. I want to get thousands of people into my syndicate side because I believe that the entrepreneurs are what really helps fix America. Yeah.
I agree.
Erik funds a company and they go hire 10 people. Well, what if he funds 50 companies?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden they go from 10 people to 30.
Yep.
You're creating thousands of jobs.
Yep.
And so to me, that's been always my emotional attachment to entrepreneurs is I know that they create jobs and I know that if I can support them, they can support themselves.
Agreed. No, it's also it's a little bit of and it's not quite teach, but it's the teach man to fish. Like if you can give someone the opportunity to go create, it's so much bigger than just giving something to someone. Like it's the same. That's our nonprofit thesis too, is entrepreneurial education so that people can go build their own. That's awesome. So 2 last questions for you. First off, what's next? You're building the syndicate. You've got this influencer agency. Do you have, kind of a path in mind, or are you just running with it?
So I try to find good quarterbacks for each company.
Uh-huh.
The Everbowl company, whether I'm there or not, they're going to run. Their CEO is great. He's all in.
Uh-huh.
The agency, I brought on a CEO. He runs it. Joey runs it full time. Whether I'm there or not, the agency runs. I'm trying to do that with each thing. My mastermind business, I have 2 masterminds, same concept. Mm-hmm. Someone running it. If Alec is running it, whether I'm there or not, it's going to run. I'm the relationships. I want to try to be the relationship guy to be able to bring all these people in. The sports card business is my most interesting right now.
Yeah.
Because of how fast it's scaled. Now I'm going to build the first national chain store for cards. I have 2 locations now. Our 3rd will be open Sunday.
We finally went. It was great.
That's the thing I really want to scale. I think that one's really compelling and interesting and fun, and so many mutual friends are in the sports card or Pokemon game. Yep. So that one I'm really into. We did 11 million in sales in the first 304 days. So I think I can really get that thing to do. It'll do 18 million our first year, but I think we can get to 30 to 50 million next year.
Yep.
With our hands tied, right?
What's amazing about it is if you build a good location like that, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you can make a great place that people want to hang out, you're going to by nature increase the velocity of people trading cards because they want to go in all the time. Right. Yeah, that's great.
And so we've just been getting all these interesting characters into the game, or if they're in the game, try to help publicize them more. So if it's Ben Baller and Steve Aoki and DJ Ski, and Logan Paul, and all these fun characters, them buying cards, them trading cards, them doing deals with brands like Topps. They all have deals with Topps. That's interesting. That becomes it gets so many new characters, new faces into the industry. And so I've been trying to drive that a lot. Is how do I get lots of my friends, acquaintances, followers, interesting people to just look at the card game and see what things that they like from their childhood.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's really interesting. I think that's growing. So last question, I think this will be a good one for you. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone that is pursuing their dream or, wants to aspire to do something that you either wish you received or you did receive that helped you kind of get to where you are?
Sign contracts with everyone, including your mom.
Sign contracts? Did you get screwed on a handshake deal, or what do we mean?
So the contract is not about a lawsuit. Contract is about actually spelling out what's Erik going to do and what's Dan going to do. So it's more like an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. Yeah. By doing that, it prevents so many headaches. By just saying, Erik's going to do this, Dan's going to do this, instead of me thinking what Erik's going to do and me thinking what I'm going to do, because we're both wrong. Yep. Right? I'm wrong in 2 scenarios and you're wrong in 2 scenarios, because I thought I was going to go build the chain store. You thought I was going to build the online. Yeah. And then you thought you were going to do this. And you're like, well, actually, I'm just a consultant. I don't have to do this. But you have 50%. If we just spell it out on one piece of paper, and the same thing applies in relationships, it applies with your mom wants you to do chores and she thinks she's going to pay you $5 and you think it's going to be 20. That situation, that resentment wouldn't happen if she just wrote it down. You could have talked about it. Yeah. And she thought you were going to clean your room 5 days. You thought you were going to do it 1 day. And so it was so many scenarios that have happened in the past that I thought someone was going to do this. They thought I was going to do this, or that was going to happen here or there. And it would have been so simple if we just had a 1-page contract or a 1-page memorandum of understanding.
Got it. Clarity, super important. It's really important to be clear. And yeah, that makes sense. Well, Dan, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on HawkeTalk.
You've been listening to the Hawke Media podcast. To ensure that you never miss an episode, make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.